Hi, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. First off, I want to apologise for the fact that I've not made a video in a long time, a full-length video in a long time. Reason is I've just been so busy mastering for clients and mixing for clients, and I've just not had a chance to do a full-length YouTube video. I do have some more free time in the new year, so I will be getting back to doing some MPC tutorials and also some Isla Instruments S2400 tutorials, which is what the video is about today. I've had a lot of requests from people when they've seen the shorts that I've been releasing recently on the S2400, how do I program a beat, etc. So I will be doing some tutorials on the S2400 going forward, as well as the MPC. I haven't forgot about the MPC, and also I'll be showing you how I combine those two together and sync them up with my DAW as well. So there'll be plenty of videos for the MPC, the S2400, and how I integrate that into my workflow. So let's jump in. So here we are with the S2400. I've tried to get the screen as in focus as I possibly can. I don't have the best camera in the world. I'm actually just using a webcam, so it's not perfect, I'm afraid, but I think you can work out what's going on. Just want to point out as well, I use a QWERTY keyboard plugged into the back of the S2400. It's a lot quicker for me. I prefer that style of workflow, and since the late 80s I've been used to hitting space on a keyboard and it starts the beat. So I do have some hands on the S2400, but I just prefer to work this way. So it's worth checking out. There's lots of shortcuts on the QWERTY, which I'll go through as well. Now, because the QWERTY's not going to be in shot, I'll explain what I'm hitting. So literally, let's just say we've turned on the S2400. Default, I have 4 bars set up in my pattern, a 120 tempo, and we want to load a kit. So quick way to do that is Shift File, Load Kit. So let's find a kit. Let's go for this one. Okay, so my kit's loaded. This sounds like some of my old SP1200 and MPC 3000 sounds. Now, I am going to make a video explaining how I build drum kits. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that today. But these are old sounds, so that's why they sound quite gritty and that already. There are other ways to make your sounds more gritty and have that 12-bit sound to them, etc. in the S2400. Again, I'm not going to go into detail on that today. But let's just say that from the off, I always have everything sampled in 26 kilohertz, 12-bit. So they have that gritty sound right from the start. And, you know, a lot of beat programming is about sound choice and it's about, you know, getting the sounds right before you even start, because then, you know, you're already halfway there to a beat sounding good, in my opinion. If you want that gritty, dirty kind of old school house sound, you need to get your sounds right to start with. So, like I said, this is a drum kit that I've built up. Now I'm just hitting B on the QWERTY here to flick through my banks really, really quickly. I just find that a lot easier, personally. Okay, so we've got the drum sounds in. Going to set up tempo, hit T on your QWERTY keyboard and you can pick the tempo. Let's go 124, enter. Next thing I do is I go into the metronome, make sure that recording's turned on to start with. I can check the scale here as well. I have that to 1/8. Escape brings me back to the main screen. Swing, by default, is always on 50%. Let's change that. Let's go 63%. That's quite a nice percentage for house beats. I don't have a default, but I'm just going to go for 63% here. And also I can change that as I program the drum beat as well, but the pattern amount is 63%. Let's come back out. Find a kick drum. That sounds decent. I like that one. Okay, so out space starts recording. Space just starts the track, but we'll go out back. Okay. Now, because I've recorded the kick drum now and I know what my time is going to be, I can go into metronome and I can take recording off. It will still count me in, but it won't be there annoyingly in the background and affecting the way the drum beat sounds. Sometimes I've forgotten to do that and I don't realise it's there, and I'm programming the drum beat and I'm starting to mix the drum beat on the S2400 and I'm thinking, there's a rim shot in there, where's that coming from? And I've been pulling my hair out, well, what little hair I have, and suddenly I realised I've got the metronome turned on. So a habit that I've got into quite quickly now is turning off the metronome once I've got the kick drum in or the clap or the hi-hats or whatever. So the next thing I will do is Shift F6 and I'll just name this beat. Again, because it's on the QWERTY, it makes everything so much quicker. So let's just call that main beat. And also what I'm going to do is I'm now going to save a project. I want to save the project quite quickly because then I literally just have to hit Control S as I'm going along. So let's go to save project as rather. I always date things so I know when I made the beat. It's 21st today. Let's call this S2400 beat YT because it's going to be for YouTube, just so I know. Hit enter. Saving project. And obviously that's a working title, it doesn't have to stay that, but it's always good right at the start on the S2400 to set up a project, in my opinion. Otherwise by default it just saves it as project 1, project 2, project 3, etc., and that can get really confusing when you go back to a project at a later date. So back out, we've got our kick drum in. I want to find a decent hat. Okay, let's go with that. See, I always start off by building a house beat with the basic elements, like a snare, a hat, and a kick drum. And I like to build my own top lines with the hi-hats as well. I don't like to sample loops. In fact, I never sample loops when it comes to house beats and stuff, because in the mixing process, I like to have absolute control. And if you sample a top line, for instance, I'm not saying there's no right or wrong here. If you want to sample top line, hi-hats, claps, snares, whatever, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Go for it, you know. But I have never done that because I like to have absolute control in the mixing process. Top line hi-hats, for instance, there might be 3 or 4 different hi-hats going on. And if you sample a top line, you've got no control over the reverb, the delay, the swing, where you want to place it in the stereo field, if you want wide hats panned, and then if you want some hats in mono, if you want to change the swing of one particular hat. Same with claps and snares. I like to have absolute control in the mixing process. So I always build up my drum beats right for every single individual sound. I just don't use loops. It's just something I've never ever done. And also it teaches you about beat programming as well. You can... Dare I say, you can become lazy if you're sampling top lines. And also, you might sample a top line that 20 other people have sampled. You go through the track, oh, this track sounds amazing. You release it, and then you find the same week somebody else has released a track with exactly the same top line because that sample pack came out, you know, a couple of months ago. They've all got the same sample packs. So if you sample things individually, it's going to be your own individual beat. And there's a sense of satisfaction from that as well because you wrote that drum beat. So let's find a clap. If you hold down B on the QWERTY and go 1, 2, 3, 4 here, it takes you through banks A, B, C, D, or E and F on the midis. But it's just quick, holding down B or just flicking B. So very basic house beat. The reason why I've done that is because I want to show you how house beats tend to be built around those fundamentals, and then you build on it, and that's what makes your drum beat different. That's what gives it individual identity, is by adding the little flicks, adding the little subtle things, you know, etc. So we've started very simple there. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little trick here. Take the level down on that same hat. Just by dropping the level, it kind of gives it a little bit more life because you're adjusting the volumes. You can also go into multi as well, but just for this case, I'm just going to lower the level because when you lower the level using the level button, you're going to be writing in at that level as well. It's a good habit to get into. You see, so I'm gradually building up a top line here, my own top line. Now, because I've done this so often, and a lot of the time I can hear the beat in my head before I've actually even written it. The reason why I've added that particular hat is because in the mixing process, I want to pan that hat to give the tracks a width, and I'll leave the other 909 style hat right in the center. That's just a trick that I've used for a long, long time. So if you're wondering why I've put that hat over the top, because it might sound a bit unnecessary, but I'm thinking ahead. So I'm going to be panning that particular hat wide, using the Hass effect or whatever, just to give the track some width. So building. So we've got, you can hear the top lines building up itself there, just adding little subtleties. Now we can start. I always leave the snares till last. Well, actually, I don't always leave the snares till last, but generally I do, because for me, the snares are what create the real swing in the drum beat. If you're going for like a Todd Terry style or a Kenny Dope style or Kerry Chandler, or if you want to keep it quite straight, sulfuric kind of house, if you want to make it sound really kind of live and stuff, the snares is where it happens. So let's just find... You see, so the snares is really what does it. And I'd know from experience on the S2400, it isn't the same on every single machine. It's different on the SP, it's different on the MPCs, various MPCs, swing ratios, 61%, 63, 65, 67. You know, I kind of know that that kind of drum beat that I was just doing then is going to be swung at about 63, 65, which is why I have my pattern amount set at 63 by default in this particular case, because I knew what kind of drum beat I was going to be making. It might be 65, it might be 67. Depends on how loose I want it. So let's just write in some quick snare patterns. So you can hear how it gives it that swing. Now, if I was to go in here now and change that to 50, see, 63 to 65. 65 to me sounds a little bit too laid back. And that would work in certain tracks. But in this track, I kind of still want a little bit of exactness, if that's a word. So 63, you know, what's really nice about the S2400 is it's really easy to flick between and just get an instant feel for what it, you know, how the swing is. So 63. If my head starts nodding, I know that it's in the right place. I mean, 65 sounds really nice as well. Let's stick with 63 on this one. And I want just a little bit, something else in there. Maybe another snare. So maybe... That doesn't really sound right for me. I want to... I want to kind of like a short snare. I mean, that's the right snare. You see, 63% on that snare doesn't sound right. It needs to be a little bit later. See, listen to it, 63. Just sounds a little bit jutty, kind of just like the drummer's gone a little bit early. So I'm just swinging it a little bit more. Boot-up, boot-up, boot-up. See, Control S, save, easy. That's why I like using a QWERTY keyboard. Control S, easy, done, save. So there you have it, very, very quickly thrown together, very ad-lib. Sorry for like the fact that it's quite lo-fi, etc. But I just wanted to show, because I've been asked quite a few questions and I've had quite a lot of requests, how I make a drum beat in the S2400. But also bear in mind, a lot of those programming skills and techniques are also relevant on the MPC and the SP404, and even in your DAW on drum beat programs, etc. So it's still relevant. It's not just for the S2400. So there you have it, very, very simple house drum beat and how I do it in the S2400, or at least one of the ways that I do it in the S2400. So thanks for watching. Please, haven't said it in a long time. Please subscribe for more mixing, mastering, MPC and S2400 tutorials and reviews. This is the Quates Motel. My name's Conan. Until next time.